This week is all about God providing Hello and welcome to week 5 of Threshold. I'm so glad that you're here. This week is all about God providing exit doors when we are in impossible situations. Exit doors provide a sense of peace. We know exactly where to go when there's an emergency, and it's just really cool to see flight attendants do, this thing when you're on a plane. What happens when we can't find the exit or there's no giant red exit sign to help lead the way? Let's catch up with Moses and the Israelites to see what they did when they were trapped with no exit. After God sent the 10 plagues upon Egypt, Pharaoh finally relented and allowed the Israelites to leave. This was about 600,000 men, plus women, plus children. So probably about 1 million people were set free. They were finally freed from slavery after being in captivity in Egypt for over 400 years. And not one of those Israelites following Moses knew anything about life outside of Egypt. Sometimes the beginning of freedom can be fearful and a terrifying thing. Now Moses led them very carefully, following the Lord's instructions. The Lord led Moses and the Israelites using a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. As they follow the Lord's lead, Pharaoh and his officers, they change their minds and they say something along these lines. What have we done? We have let the Israelites go and have lost their services. So he had his chariots made ready, took his army with him, and took 600 of the best chariots, along with all the other chariots of Egypt and his officers all over them. And this is where we find Moses and the Israelites in Exodus 14. In what seems like an impossible situation, the mountains on either side of them, the Red Sea in front of them, and Pharaoh with his entire army coming up behind them. They're trapped without an exit in sight. And they're terrified. And they say to Moses, "What have you done to us? It would have been better for us to die serving the Egyptians than to die in the desert." How quickly they've forgotten all that the Lord has done for them already. They lived through 10 plagues and were set free, all through God's power and might. They come to their first real obstacle and cry out in desperation to Moses instead of trusting in God's plan for them. We need to remember God's faithfulness. It helps to remember God's faithfulness when we feel like we are trapped in a situation without an exit door. God loves you, and taking the time to remember all the ways in which you have experienced his love can help us from cries of despair. As the Israelites cry out, Moses answers them saying, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only be still." Thanks, Moses. Thanks a lot. We left everything we knew with the promise of freedom and a new land, and now we're terrified and trapped and hunted, and you want us just to wait for it. Have you ever followed God into unknown territory? Maybe it's distancing yourself from a friend because that relationship has become toxic. Maybe it's trying a new class or hobby, something that could be exciting, because you really felt the Lord's invitation to try something new. Change can be and often is difficult. It can feel like we're trapped by the mountains on either side, the Red Sea in front of us, and an enemy on our heels. We need to stand firm in God's promises. Moses is asking the Israelites to stand firm in the Lord. Then the Lord speaks to Moses, tells him exactly what to do and what he is going to do. "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff, stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them. and I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his army, through his chariots and his horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I gain glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen. After this, the Lord immediately moves the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night that had been leading them and uses it as a guard behind them. This cloud provides the Israelites with light, and it puts the Egyptians into complete darkness. So throughout that night, they are protected as Moses does exactly what the Lord commands him to do. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground, with a wall of water to their right and on their left. Exit, exit, exit. This is a giant red blinking sign that the Lord has given them. It's an impossible situation without a way out when the Lord provides a giant red exit door through the Red Sea. But God isn't done. Remember what he has said repeatedly throughout Exodus. He says, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. He says it 5 times. The Egyptians, set on getting back their free labor and completely in denial of the God of Israel, even though they had seen the destruction of the 10 plagues that ravaged their homes and their families just to set God's people free, even knowing and experiencing all this, they pursued the Israelites. The Lord confuses the Egyptian army as they follow the Israelites into the Red Sea. He incapacitates their chariots, their marvels of modern machinery, so that they struggle to drive them, and this slows them down. At this point, even the Egyptians knew that they were in trouble, and the Egyptians said, "Let's get away from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptians and their chariots and horsemen." Moses does what the Lord commands, and the Egyptian army with all their chariots and horsemen are swept into the sea. This is quite a grim tale for the Egyptians. But what do you think the Israelites feel after seeing the Lord swiftly deal with their oppressors? Remember that they had been enslaved for 400 years. How do you think they felt knowing that they would never have to look over their shoulders again, wondering if Pharaoh and his army would enslave them? The Israelites and the Egyptians knew the power of the Lord that day. The Israelites responded to their rescue by putting their trust in God. And we need to put trust in the God that provides us with an exit door. When you come upon an impossible situation, do you forget God's faithfulness and become overwhelmed with trying to find a way out? Or are you able to put your trust in God, to fight your battles for you, to provide you with an exit door? Thank you for joining 10 Minute Monday. Hope to see you next week. Bye.